my god, there's my blazer. Heck yeah, give me the blazer. I forgot about this baby. Look how fast it is. Alright, save it. We got the blazer. Bless the blazer. Alright, is the... Oh, he is here. Oh no. We have a problem. Okay, well, even though he is here, I can't talk to him because of, you know, the pirates. Here, try this. Just do this. Nice. Boy, that pirate looter is like, I immediately have medicine. I break out of this. What's going on now? He's not aggressive to me. I can still talk to him if I can get out of combat. But I can't, like... It's... Oh, I can land on his boat. Okay, cool. Let me get over here, then. I don't want to fight him. Alright, the looter is over there. Can I just kill this guy and then talk to the pirate? To the ferryman? Let's see if that works. Let's see if the ferryman even cares. You find the ferryman busy as always. I guess I could use a break. What do you need this time? Okay, so we could talk to him about a whole bunch of things, right? Can I ask you personal questions? You've already asked your question. Yeah, so I did try to talk to him, and I don't think I can talk to him anymore. I had some questions about the Black Sea. The monolith. What do you know about it? It's known as the glowing canine among the people. I've only ever seen it from below, but those who have been there and returned alive said its peculiarity is not limited to its physical appearance. For the psychological influence it imposes upon those who approach it is more than evident. Some sought more from it, but those did not retain their sanity, or, in better case, did not survive. No. He opens his mouth to speak, but then stops. What is it? Nah, nothing, kid. Oh no, I want to know about it. Say nothing. He shakes his head. The monolith. Anyway, shakes his head. Darn. What about the history? Little. And it doesn't matter anyway. Talk to you about something else. Every time we mention the ruins, you'd start silently staring into the water. What's that supposed to mean? It means you know something but don't want to tell me. Tell you? Who do you think you are, kid? Now, I could say a bunch of things right here. I could say all of these things. I'm going to say I'm a man looking for the truth. Oh, you think so? You're lost. But in the grand scheme of things, so am I. You, me, the rest of UnderRail, the poor suckers who lived here and whose skulls now serve as insect and fish homes for the coral to grow on. He takes a long draw and exhales to the smoke to the left. He gazes at you while holding his pipe, then he takes another draw, exhaling to the right this time. Well, perhaps I do that, staring at the water. Haven't noticed. Must be subconscious. Yes, he nods, subconscious. 'Cause it is down there, kid, the center. You stare at the surface of the sea, but only see your own reflection. You break the surface, and you see nothing but unlit depths. The center, it's somewhere down there. Everything's sinking toward it. Down, down. These Lemurians, that's how they called themselves. They even built toward it, and they met their doom before us. Before, but only seemingly, we're all sinking together. Tell me more about these things, about Lemurians. You speak as though you know a lot about them. If you want specifics, I know little. Little about these Lemurians, perhaps even less than you do. What I do know, though, is that they were people who attempted to ascend through technology, Biocore 2, and many, many others, all doing essentially the same but differently. They thought they could emulate or even return to the surface or beyond, which is just what we're looking at with the Tchort stuff. Look what became of their endeavors. But it ain't the fate that awaits only the deluded and voracious, but us as well, only we are lighter and thus sink more slowly, but we do sink. We make our descent into the center one way or the other. One way or the other. You keep mentioning it, but what is this center, this descent into the center? You really want to know, kid? Yes. You think you can handle something which could change your whole perspective on life, existence, reality itself? Probably not, but I'm willing to try. Let us see then. He walks to the cabin, pouring the ash from his pipe into the sea along the way. There he kneels, effortlessly at his age, beside the bed and grabs a small plastic box from underneath it. It is a simple dark brown box with a worn-out label. In it, another pipe, superficially similar to the one he has been smoking up until now, but with a rougher texture and more prominent signs of age. Inside is also a nylon bag filled with what appears to be tobacco. After sprinkling the said tobacco into his pipe, dousing it carefully until satisfied, he uses a tamper, a pen-shaped tool with a wide flat head, to gently compress it. He then repeats the process 2 more times before putting the pipe tool away. He takes a draw, not yet lighting his pipe, and returns all the items but the pipe back into the box, which he also returns to its original location. He walks back to you, stroking his yellowish mustache with his left hand, eyes glued to the rusty deck. The ferryman then pulls out a lighter. Descent into the center, you say? He says, and he lights his pipe, puffing a few times, until it's properly lit. Then he takes a long first draw and expels a thick cloud of smoke that has a unique, full-bodied, musty smell, evocative of memories of an unexperienced past. He takes a moment to relax, to stare at the relatively calm sea. Then he looks you dead straight in the eye. We can begin, kid. What I'm about to tell you are my own thoughts, observations, ideas, my own philosophy, which I based on years and years of study and experience. He puffs some more smoke. I looked within myself and the surrounding world, its history and culture and lack thereof. I've read the old books, the books older still, and I studied and compared their contents in an attempt to extrapolate the ultimate truth. This is what I inferred. This reality of ours stretches in a certain direction, drawn by something I refer to as the spirit of gravity. This direction leads to true death. So I have 2 intelligence options, which I'm going to take one of them. So we're talking about the eventual end of humanity, its descent into the center. Do you mean to say that our collective path as a civilization leads to inevitable doom? Stretches in what sense? Let's talk about the end of humanity. You catch on quick, kid, real quick. Yes, humanity as a whole, from individuals to entire civilizations. However, let's take this one step at a time, as things aren't as simple as they may seem. You see at the very top, way up there, that's where the origin is. It's just the highest point of existence, free from all the hardships, complete weightlessness. And then there's the center, where true death awaits. The spirit of gravity I mentioned, it's the call of true death. Everything that exists, you, me, communities, and entire civilizations, heed this call. Everything that lives must grow old and heavy and eventually die. So we start at the origin and are being pulled down over time by the spirit of gravity toward the center. So you represent the passage of time spatially as a vertical decline. Am I right? Alright, let's take the top option again. I don't know if these are categorized by what level of intelligence you need. In principle, yes, it's true. There's much more to it, though. But before that, I need to address your overtime, for the passage of time is but an illusion. It is simply a way in which we perceive this directional nature of reality. Its physical manifestation is the tendency of humanity to dwell in ever and greater depths, darker depths of the earth. The humanity that was closer to the origin dwelled among the stars. Wow. You understand? I think so. It's like space and time combined. Space-time, but represented through a single dimension. If I understand correctly, the spirit of gravity is pulling us toward the center no matter what, and what we see as a passage of time is fundamentally a passage of our descent. Time is place. This point in time we're currently in is the physical point of our decline. Am I right? There is a correlation between our location in the physical world and our, for lack of a better term, metaphysical distance from the center, this true death, and time does not pass separately from this descent. I could say all of these things. I'm going to say the second option. He gives you a slight smile. Very good. You seem to be understanding things well so far. I think I could safely proceed and say a word or two about true death. Go for it. He takes a draw. True death is the ultimate death, the permanent death. Meaning that we come back to life if we do not try a true death. Meaning that death is an illusion. Interesting. So everything that he's saying right now seems to me, he's talking, I keep thinking about gravity, about the collapse of the universe itself. back into a singularity, perhaps, that eventually the expansion of the Big Bang will be consumed by a force of gravity that is not necessarily through entropy, but just through time will catch up with the expansion and pull it back down into what they call the Big Crunch. Death is an illusion? Yes, but which death? True death is far from an illusion and means the end of existence. False death is merely physical. Because you see, false death does not release one from the descent. One will just be reborn again where he left off, or even lower. Suicide will not only not help you, it will instead confuse you and further remove you from the origin. You understand the essence, that immaterial part of us remains even though our corporeal mechanism ceases to function, and that allows us to return and continue with our descent. True death is the literal death, material and immaterial. It's kind of like Buddhism, it's kind of like you're reincarnated until you reach enlightenment, but instead of enlightenment, going to the origin and becoming weightless and light, you are stepping out of existence and going down to true death, which are kind of like, mirror images of the same thing, perhaps, just pointed in a different direction, and is not a desirable outcome. That is what I've inferred. So what is true literal death actually? Death is a cessation of action. False death only of physical and only until reborn, while true death is all of our action and all of your whole essence. False death is not death at all, but most will know no better. And in origin, I get to exist on, right? You want to live on? You don't want all your actions to cease, you say, but they will. The only question is in which manner, by returning to the origin or by dying a true death. In true death, your action will be accentuated to an unbearable vibration, and in that manner transformed. And in origin? Origin. We'll get to origin. Wow. So now it's like, it's polar. It's actually not amounting to the same thing, perhaps as like nirvana or enlightenment, but heaven and hell. Very akin in some ways to, Dante's tale of heaven and hell in the Divine Comedy, and where, the devil is basically imprisoned in the central point and trapped forever in this like squishing, smashing, tiny confines, and then heaven is just vastness and never-ending. What are these unbearable vibrations? What happens after that? Vibrations, by the way. We're getting some vibrations, aren't we? Old books, they all describe it differently. Some focus on the material aspect, others on its immaterial one, but what they all agree upon is that it concerns the entirety of you, your whole existence, your body, and your essence. They also agree that true death, no matter which form it's been explained through, is unbearable. Right, so it's torturous. Seems like the people of the old world saw the same thing through different lenses. The records hardly agree. How can you be so sure that what you've concluded is the truth? I don't deny that we should look beyond reality, but what if these people saw something they wanted us to see and not something that truly is? Certain things you can say in many languages. They'll sound different, but the essence will be the same. Reality is deceptive, more so due to our imperfections and the imperfections of our senses. Thus, none of the old books are without false observations and deductions, but once you look at them all, the falsities, vein, and the intersection of human thought can help us glimpse into the fundamental qualities of reality, for even humanity recognizes its own essence to some degree, but often ignores it. So he's kind of like a Joseph Campbell, like a comparative religion person, or a comparative mythology scholar, but he's not only doing that, it looks like he's studying everything. Believe what I say or don't, fine with me. I'm just trying to give a truthful depiction of something I deem to be of supreme importance, but know this, you cannot strive if there is nothing to strive for, otherwise you're just stumbling pointlessly through the darkness of existence. If every death is a false death and we will always be reborn, how do we know if we've died before? He takes a moment to think about it, puffing while doing so. We can't know. We can't, because it would be necessary to look at ourselves from a perspective that it would allow us to obtain the means to justify our belief that we've experienced false death. And that perspective we cannot assume. I don't think so. I don't know if I died in a false death before, and ultimately it ain't important. For when it comes to looking at the whole, there is no such boundary there at all, since it's a false death and hence not a death at all, and it did not happen before, nor it is about to happen, as time is just an illusion. I could say I have this strange feeling that I keep dying and returning to life. It's as though these deaths keep setting me back, and yet I don't actually remember anything, otherwise possess any evidence. So this is kind of a meta point in that, you know, like, are we talking about me playing the game and my character dying a whole bunch of false deaths, and completing the game is true death? Or are we just talking about metaphysics and spirituality outside of the creation of the game? Let's see. You're right, it's not important, all things considered. The most important thing is that we recognize its existence. Its existence, that is the first step. False death is something beyond our senses, for it destroys them. That is one of the consequences. That's why it fools us. And with many other things, we cannot rely on empiricism alone to give us the answer. We can, however, acquire the knowledge of its existence. Empiricism alone, perhaps, but relying on things just making sense is a slippery slope, as people can find sense in anything and thus start believing it and putting it forth as knowledge. We can make sense of things even if we haven't experienced them. Moreover, we constantly rely on presuppositions and things we've been taught. I'm going to say the first one. The true answer lies in wisdom, for it encompasses these crucial things: experience, knowledge, and the capacity to understand and reconcile the former two in order to form new knowledge. From wisdom and also inevitably emerges humility, which evicts the childish arrogance and turns the mind into a fertile soil for understanding things supreme. For knowledge is, in simple terms, a justified true belief. Falsities can be believed but not known, as they are by definition false. Thus, knowledge requires truth. Truths are not to be believed and also cannot be known, for how can you claim to know if you yourself do not believe? Thus, knowledge requires belief, but belief in something, even if true, is not knowledge, for without justification, it might be but a guess, blind luck, and that is not knowledge. Thus, knowledge requires justification. Right. So, this is something that, you know, philosophy, spirituality have discussed a lot, which is that you really can't know certain truths. You can only know the negative side, the things that they are not, and that's really all you can talk about. Where justification comes from, you ask? This is something we can debate till our descent into the center, kid, but I can tell you where it doesn't come from, and that is from profane quantification, the reduction to the confines of what is available to the senses. Okay, so I think I've talked to him about everything. Yeah, okay, let's return to this later. Oh wow, I can talk to him about so many different things. Good lord. Alright, spirit of gravity. The spirit of gravity, true death's call. Everything that exists heeds this call. Everything that lives must grow old and heavy and eventually die. You've mentioned that you invented the term spirit of gravity. How did it originate? The term was inspired in large part by certain old books. The scientific term gravity is familiar to you, a force by which objects with mass attract one another. But spirit, that's something entirely different. Energy, essence, leading force, driving force. I'm just going to keep... Essence? Essence, that implies the vital quality of something. Spirit ain't that. To me, spirit is an immaterial property which brings things to life. It's like a spark. Yes, a spark that ignites fuel in an internal combustion engine of a ship like mine. Yes, let's take a ship like as an example. You have the hull, the engine, all the internal components. You can add fuel and oil and everything else you need. You have all the elements in their place, but the ship will be nothing but an inert piece of metal floating on the water. For that ship to move and be, needs to be something to breathe life into it, a spark. Only the spirit, as something of a higher order, does not cease to be after giving life, but persists and further drives its carrier's existence through action. Okay. I see now. Basically, an immaterial force which gives life to something and makes it move. Correct. Yes. Therefore, the spirit of gravity is something that is immaterial in essence, but has a physical manifestation of a downward pulling force like gravity. Okay. Origin? Origin, the highest point of existence, free from all hardships, complete weightlessness. Tell me about it. I have observed the discipline of humanity, its slow but steady descent. If we've sunk from the surface to the underground, then what higher position did we occupy before that? I kept asking myself that question repeatedly for years, looking for records from before the surface. What did you discover? I read about celestial space above the surface from which those who came before us fell from a higher place and higher state. They became heavier and they fell down. It's kind of like 2001: A Space Odyssey, the novel with the Starman at the end, who actually transcends and goes higher to pure energy, and maybe that would be like the root of the origin point. But not even that celestial space from which they fell is the origin. It's far too close to the surface. Too close. Origin is higher, above, among the stars. It's where one can achieve complete weightlessness. Origin is complete weightlessness. So the intelligence option I have is, so this weight, it's not only physical, is it? It must be some kind of burden we carry within ourselves. It is both. It is both. The weight which we carry on our backs and the one we carry within. This burden, it makes us sink to the center. In fact, our very existence is like a constantly sinking ship. From the origin to the center, all of us share the ride, but the ship is tilted forward. He takes a draw, tilted, with some of us being on its higher end, the stern, some on the lower bow, closer to the center, and the rest somewhere in between. Oh, okay, some are sinking faster than the others, but we're still on the same ship? You can say it like that, yes, but you see, we share our burden because that weighs us down. The ship is our combined weight. We may have our burden, but we can help ourselves by helping others with theirs. That is the key. You understand, kid? I understand. The lighter we are, the slower we sink. Our burdens are shared, so even if some are light, others will weigh us all down. Yes, but seeing it as one ship is kind of narrow-minded, even if it does, just to illustrate the point. I think that we're on different ships instead, as some groups of people have sunk before us. This gives us, some of us, the possibility to escape this fleet of sinking ships, maybe? Let's see what he says to that. That's a highly optimistic view, and is a concept not without merit by any means, but however you look at it, a ship, a fleet, as long as there's a burden, will continue to sink, and a sinking ship drags down everything around it, especially if it sinks fast enough. Those that are closer to the center than us. Yes, he takes a draw. Can you tell me about them? As man partakes in reality and is drawn down by the spirit of gravity, he descends toward even lower levels along with, but sometimes also as a vanguard of, humanity. Sometimes whole groups can be this vanguard. Vanguard? How exactly? Like Biocore? Their burden sheds light on our own. So the moral is to observe and take notes? Learning is a virtue, and we must observe and think, but whether to be idle or to take action requires keen judgment, for doing the wrong thing has consequences. You cannot help those who won't help themselves. Helping them means carrying their burden yourself while they accumulate more of their own, yet those who want to help themselves might drag you down in doing so, like a drowning man pulling both his rescuer and himself to a watery grave. And then there are the sinister ones, the wicked. The weight of men comes from many sources, some we know intrinsically, but the rest can only be seen through the burden of others. He takes a draw. But, as I've said before, helping others with their burden will also help you, but it can also burden you further. You simply need to be wise. I suppose kindness to others somehow always comes back. There's helping someone and helping someone help himself. You just have to make them believe they can. He exhales a thick cloud of smoke and looks up. I have no further comments. Do you consider money to be a burden? Is money a burden? For individuals, it depends. For humanity, indubitably. He pulls a coin out of his pocket and sets it on his hand. It's got physical weight, be it a coin or a plastic card. It's got weight, but this weight, this physical quantitative property pales in comparison to the true weight money can have. He puts the coin over his eyes like an oblique monocle. It's a lens through which humanity has quantificated the values of everything, as everything can be expressed through it. Everything has a price. For to quantificate means to reduce to discrete magnitudes, and to reduce means to remove the qualities deemed unimportant. As humanity's higher values eroded, so did they become quantificated to this most profane material form. In fact, kid, this very burden is a large part of the erosion itself, the corruption. I suspect you use money because you have to. I only use it when I gotta, because I gotta, and the amount I gotta. Everything beyond that is a burden. Would you abolish it, given the chance? Whether I want to or not is irrelevant. It's the question of whether I could or couldn't. It's a sad part of humanity's imperfection. If money did not exist, it would be necessary to invent it. Let's see. I think of money as pure evil. Having more than I need is just wrong, and I just get rid of it as soon as possible. I work hard and get paid. That money represents my blood and my sweat, and for that I think I deserve something. Money is simply something that exists, a part of the world. I don't think it's either good or bad, but depending on how we use it, it can become either. Alright, I'll say that. Individuals may have this wisdom, they may, but humanity as a whole does not. Let's return. Let's talk about the center. This is too complex for you to understand right now. I don't think you fully grasped some of the more basic concepts yet. Oh, origin. Tell me about origin again. The center? Okay. Spirit of gravity? Passage of time? Passage of time is but an illusion, a way in which we perceive the directional nature of reality. Okay? True death? True death is the ultimate death, the permanent death. I've been thinking, can you help someone with their burden by killing them? Strictly hypothetically. He pauses, frowning. Killing? What do you mean exactly? I've told you that death, false death, removes you even further from the origin. Yes, but what if someone has a burden which will keep dragging him down until he's physically dead? Shouldn't death help him? And that suicide will further confuse them, I know, but unburdened people don't commit suicide, so without a certain kind of burden you might get back up again, even rise above your former life. False death is only of the flesh. You seem to be disregarding the essence, what is not confined to the body, what defines us no matter what form or shape we take or end up with. And you seem to be disregarding its inherent connection with our physical side. If you're burdened, you're burdened, through physical or non-physical means. Okay. On the contrary, perhaps death can prevent someone from committing a mistake that will burden them. I don't know. This seems tenuous. I'm not sure about that. Ultimately, I don't have a definitive answer to this question. What I can tell you, though, is that I have killed many people for reasons which might seem justified or not, and in doing so, even if I have, let's assume, helped some of them somehow, I've only burdened myself further. That I'm sure of. I often feel great remorse for the lives I've taken. You feel the burden. Tell me about whether or not we can know if we've died before. Okay, we talked about that. What's false and true death? Right. Okay, and true literal death? Right. Okay, and then burden. The weight which we carry on the backs and the one we carry within. This burden, it makes us sink to the center. Right. Tell me about the sinking ship. You understand? I do. Tell me about money. Let's return to this later. The center. I can't get there. I messed up the dialogue somewhere because I can't get... I can't progress. I think I shouldn't have disagreed with him. I need a break. He puffs smoke. You know, I haven't discussed the descent into the center with anyone since Hank. He pauses. Hank Wardell, was it? Yes. Yes. Wardell. Tell me about Hank. Hank was an older gentleman, not as old as myself, but most certainly a man who has spent his years acquiring knowledge and building up great wisdom. This made him catch up or even surpass me in this regard. He strove for the optimum, and that is the aspect of him I admired and found fascinating the most, the way he thought and did of things. Due to the circumstances he was at in the time, I can tell you a whole lot about him. I can't tell you a whole lot about him, rather. I'm obliged to discretion, you see. Even mentioning his name was perhaps a bit of an oversight on my part, but that doesn't matter anymore, no. Have I heard that name before in some of the records I've seen? He puffs and smokes and stares into the distance. Still, him and I, we had a great debate, regarding to the descent into the center. Is Hank Wardell the dude? Agreements on certain topics solidified our beliefs, while disagreements forced us to think hard in order to refute each other's arguments, and arguments were indeed strong. Some I haven't been able to refute to this day. To this day. He may have been the best conversation partner I ever had. I often wonder how my arguments are holding up after these few years since our encounter. Okay. I'd like to discuss the descent into the dissenter with you. He takes a draw. Excellent. The center. I can't get there yet. Let's return to it later. Alright, need a break. Let me talk about the monolith. A while ago, 14 years ago, I think, yes, there was a thing that came into my possession, this little object that resembled... It may be better to say looked like it came from the monolith. I got it from a pirate. The name eludes me, but he was a member of the pirate crew that lived at Port Cedo long before the jetters came in. I traded it for something I scavenged. He said he got it from a man who got it from some other man who had apparently found it and claimed it from the dreaded glowing canine. I thought it looked interesting. Very unusual, very. Can you describe it? Well, it's difficult to describe its shape, as it was odd. He looks at his palm as if he's still holding the item. Had these two sides, two faces made of crystal. The other of some kind of dark rock, and depending on the angle from which you inspected it, the shard always appeared somewhat different. I could never tell where each face exactly began when viewed from the side, and it felt different depending on perspective. I always found it heavier in my hand when staring at the rock face than the other way around, yet the crystal face had this attractive prismatic glow when you'd stare at it, but casted no light at any other objects. That's the reason I bought it, for its utter peculiarity. The man who sold it to me referred to it as the shard. but it never appeared to me as something that has broken off. Is this from what broke off when they cut the rock with the shadowlith? Is this a fragment of the shadowlith? But rather like a singular piece, but the name shard still stuck with me for some reason. So what'd you do with it? I carried it with me around and I looked at it. It did remind me of the monolith, like its dull representation. The more I thought about it, the more it struck me as a sculpture of an artist whose inspiration laid in the monolith. It did. It did. I just liked holding it in my hand and looking at it, until the day I saw the Baron performing that ritual. What ritual? I don't remember exactly what kind of ritual they were performing, because on one hand I knew nothing about their ways, whereas now I know merely little, but on the other because of the circumstances I'm about to explain. I was sailing a bit further north than usual on that day, just past the large horticultural gardens, and I saw them on the island to the east. I saw the colorful robes of their shamans, the torches smelled the incense even from such a great distance, and then I felt I should approach them. To this day I'm not certain why I thought this, and even less why I did it. I was in my ferry, yes. Then I found myself stepping onto the island with my shotgun in my hands. They were surprised by my intrusion and hellishly mad, but something still kept them from killing me right then and there. I could see the confusion and hesitation in their eyes. I placed my shotgun aside a rock, made a few steps toward them, and pointed it at the largest warrior, at the largest, tallest warrior. Sure, sure, it was being yelled and growled alongside phrases I could not interpret. All the while the crowd was moving back and making a circle around him and me. Me, a then much younger but unarmed man. Him, a 3.5-meter tall warrior wielding a humongous club. I was no match for him, and he toyed with me like a child would toy with a captured mouse. He would grab me, look at me, then pull on my limbs until I screamed with pain. Throwing me around in different ways was amusing to him, his brethren as well, as they were laughing and cheering for him. Shamans smiled as well, but from the few glances I could give them, they were far more reserved in their reactions. Then he stood up and showed me his hammer. Its head was a head of a beast, he puffs, torn off one of the large statues. Then he lightly tapped me in the chest and sent me flying back. He was turning around with his hammer in his hand and cheering, but he quickly discovered he was the only one. I stood up, bloodied and in pain, and I saw fear in everyone's eyes. I grabbed something from my pocket and I threw it at him, hitting him in the left tricep. He dropped to the ground, dead. In the left tricep? But that's not exactly a vital body part. It ain't, but it didn't need to be. Something came over me and made me take this object and simply throw it at him, just like when it came over to me to challenge Shores in the first place. You threw the shard. Correct. I threw it at him, and that is where it remained. It took, I don't even know how long, for the shock and horror to dissipate from their faces. The same emotions I saw when I first approached, but now intensified. His comrades, they carried him away on a ship, northwest. Meanwhile, I was approached by their shaman, who spoke things which I couldn't understand at the time, but now I was allowed to leave. I grabbed my shotgun and sailed away. End of story, kid. Wow. So, where'd you say you hit him again? In the left triceps. The left triceps. Okay. I'd like to discuss the center with you. The center. Alright. I can't get it yet. I'm off. See you another time. So I don't know if that's enough information for me. Oh, I gained philosophy too. So I messed up, and I believe that to get the next rank, there's a rank 3, which I could have gotten, but I didn't do it perfectly. But let's see what feat that we did get. It's called philosophy. Here it is. You might not be a fully trained philosopher, but you have a good grasp of the essentials. Increases resolve by 30 and maximum psi points by 10. Oh, okay, cool. So I got some more maximum psi. And I think that information would actually be useful for me to go to the gravesite and do something, maybe. Now that I know about where to hit the guy, but I don't know if that's true or not. So I didn't get the conversation perfect, but I got it decent, and that means that basically we are in a position where now I could maybe go to their burial place and use my knowledge, you know, to get something from there. I'm not sure. Ooh, this boat did speed by. But I definitely got a huge amount of story from our man there, which was awesome. Alright, let's see. And we're going to go back here. I just want to check the map. Where am I? I'm here. Okay. Yep. Go here. I might even be able to actually teleport right back to the Institute at this point. Fantastic. Well, we're one experience point away from leveling again. And we have gotten a huge amount of information from both the original report and the ferryman, which is awesome. And so I feel like I'm in a pretty good place to try to jump down that hole. Now, I don't know if that's, you know, a good idea or not, but that's my plan. All right, everybody. I think this is a good place to end the episode. I want to say thanks so much for watching. This was a lot of reading and story, but hopefully it was really good for you guys. Like, I found it to be fascinating stuff. The writing in this game is just phenomenal, and I appreciate everyone telling me patiently to kind of like who to talk to and what to do so I don't accidentally miss some cool dialogue, and that did not disappoint. So everyone, I'm going to figure out these tremors and move along. I hope you have an excellent evening or day, and I'll check you next time. Take care.